that there was a party, the prosecution team, who wanted some...
I know, but didn't you ask, since you are a lawyer, the registered one at that, you've signed the roll of attorneys, did you ask what they wanted it for? You mean you were completely innocent of what the purpose was for asking for this list?
It appeared to me that they needed some materials for research, Your Honor.
Research? Research for what? Did you ask?
For information relative to the properties of the Chief Justice.
Yes, but didn't you ask? He couldn't even write you a formal letter, which would normally be the venue for a remedy sought by a senator or a congressman. He called you on the telephone.
Yes, Your Honor.
He called you on the telephone, and on that basis, you printed out all the names of people named Renato Corona, including his wife, Christina, and their children and in-laws. But in addition to that, the names of people whom they don't even know. Because, according to you, you are under the impression that they were asking for a trace-back system, meaning to say that for every title that they mentioned, the computer would show you how the original title was issued and to whom. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Yes, it is. Then, you submitted the list, and you said, here is the list of titles that you requested from me. You didn't even bother, according to your testimony, to go over each name carefully, because you are a former Aquino employee or official, and you knew already that President Aquino's instructions to the House Prosecution Panel was to impeach the Chief Justice. Yet you remained innocent of all of these political developments. You just sent a list that you knew was going to incriminate the Chief Justice without going over its name carefully, which is what you should have done, being an Ateneo law graduate. There were names there that are not related to the name Corona, yet you included them under the argument that you are observing a trace-back system. That's what you are doing. If you do not deny it, I will assume that you agree with what I'm saying. You have been in office since August 2011. It is now almost a year from August 2011. Couldn't you have devised, Mr. Attorney Diaz III, couldn't you have devised a computer system to filter information from your computer database? You're using high-tech terms, like data warehousing, meaning to say your data just sits there. That's the meaning of data warehousing. Why couldn't you have organized your data so that when you print out or when you type a name into your computer, it will print the real status of the title? So that if the title has been canceled, it will immediately, by one character alone, signify whether the title has been canceled or not. Why didn't you do that? I've asked a computer expert, how long will it take to install an information filter system in the computer? And she answered, it depends on the amount of data you're working on. Even if it is national, on a national basis, if there are no conflicts among the inputs, then you can do that in one day. But otherwise, if there are issues, you have to do it within 3 to 5 days. Why didn't you do that, Attorney Diaz, for the 1 whole year that you've been administrator of the Land Registration Authority?
Your Honor, we do not normally do investigative work, Your Honor. By practice, Your Honor, we use the database using the TCT as a search engine, Your Honor. But when I asked the technical guys if the computer is capable of a name search, they said yes. So I instructed them to use it, Your Honor.
Yun lang yun. Maski sinong tao pumunta doon at maging administrator, tanungin niya, yan ba, if I type in a name, it will give me the transfer certificate of title number for it? That could be answered by anybody. But any clerk would say yes if he knows his computer. And any head of office would immediately think of something better to mark his term of office with. That's all you did? You asked. Didn't you ask? Since this was already brewing into a political firestorm, didn't you ask your people? Is there a way we can filter information so that I will be committed only to issuing the titles that have not been cancelled or which are still valid as of the day I print them?
That was not the intention of the requester, Your Honor.
What was the request then?
To get any information relative to the...
Therefore, it was a dragnet. Is that what you're trying to say? Drag a net as widely as possible and then give me all the names related to these people. That's it?
I think that was the intention, Your Honor, for them to do a study, Your Honor.
Ngayon, lumilitaw na sinabi pala sa media ng prosecution. 45 ang properties nitong defendant na ito. Hindi ba nakakahiya naman yan? Kadami-rami ng properties niya. Saan niya kinuha yan? Dininakaw niya? Ganon ang pinagsasabi nila. That was the implication that they sought to sow in the minds of their readers and viewers. And now it turns out that there are only maybe 21 or so. Oh, hindi mo ba naisip na magiging ganon ang consequence niyan? You're an Ateneo law graduate and you're a lawyer.
I just forwarded the documents as
You
they
are an
came.
automaton. Sino ngayon may kasalanan? Prosecution o ikaw? Answer me. Look in my eyes. Look me in the eye.
I have no fault here, Your Honor.
Oh, wala ka. At least sila.
I'm
Kanina
not
sa
saying
dalawa
that
yun
either,
eh.
Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
I'm not also saying that, Your Honor.
You're not saying that. All right. What are you saying? Whose fault is it? Someone is at fault here.
I wouldn't know, Your Honor. As far as
I commend your ignorance, Mr. Administrator. As an example to all others who should not be as ignorant as you are. Let me read to you your violations of the Civil Code. First, the provision on quasi-delicts in the Civil Code. Article 2176. Whoever by act or omission causes damage to another, there being fault or negligence, is obliged to pay for the damage done, period. Such fault or negligence is called a quasi-delict. You are guilty of negligence. Not only of negligence, but of gross negligence. Either you or the prosecution, nobody else. Since this is a physical world and we not belong in the spiritual universe, we do not accept that there are spiritual implications on that dimension in our universe. Someone was guilty of negligence or gross negligence. And let me read to you as a lawyer the jurisprudence on negligence. Said the Supreme Court in the case of George Mackey versus Intermediate Appellate Court, 1992. There is negligence when there is a breach of duty or failure to perform the obligation, and there is gross negligence when a breach of duty is flagrant and palpable. That's what you are doing. You are in flagrant and palpable, grossly negligent of your duty. You knew that this was going to be used to try and destroy an incumbent public official. You should have been much more careful not to implicate other people or to raise the wrong suspicions in the mind of the neutral viewer or reader. You did not do so. You just asked for a printout, and the moment it got into your possession, you just sent it out. Were you so extremely busy that day that you could not go line by line over these names and say to yourself, gee whiz, some of these names don't even have the Corona in it, the Corona name in it. Why are they in this list? And you did not even have an explanation in your letter of transmittal. You did not say, for example, this list was produced under the trace-back system. This will explain why there are names there which are not the name Corona. Because we are using a system that traces back the original certificate of title to its original owner and all to whom it was passed until it came into the possession of the present owner. You didn't even say that. You didn't even say, please check this for accuracy, because we are working only with raw data. You didn't say anything. We have your copy of your letters distributed to us. Let me also tell you, as a lawyer, in the case of Jimenez Enterprises versus Ombudsman, this 2011, for an action to constitute gross inexcusable negligence, it is essential that the breach of duty borders on malice and is characterized by flagrant, palpable, and willful indifference to consequences insofar as other persons may be affected. What do you have to say to that, Attorney Diaz? Was that what you learned in your law school? You knew it would affect adversely other people, have no relation whatsoever to this case. Yet you issued a document that was highly incriminatory of those people. I give you an opportunity to rebut me.
Yes, Your Honor. First of all, Your Honor, I am not a party to this case. I would have assisted also the defense team if they requested for some documents for their use or research. I would have even presented to this honorable tribunal, Your Honor, if I was requested. And it is that fact that I did not have to review these documents lest I be found biased to one party.
Huh? You are going to review an official, you intended to review an official document and you abstained from reviewing because you might be accused of being biased, just checking for the facts? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Look at me, straight in the eye. That's what you're trying to tell me? We're both graduates of law school and we're both registered lawyers, and that's what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, Your Honor. That is how it was, Your Honor.
Why don't, as I said, why am I not impressed by your answers, Mr. Diaz? Let me tell you what the test is. In a very, very old case, Picard versus Smith, this is the test. Did the defendant, meaning to say you, in doing the alleged negligent act, use that reasonable care and caution which an ordinarily prudent person would have used in the same situation? I address this to both panels and to my fellow colleagues in this impeachment court. Can we say that you used reasonable care and caution which an ordinarily prudent person would have used?
I beg
If not-
the indulgence of the lady judge. I will let her continue for another minute.
Thank you. If not, then he is guilty of negligence. The law here, in effect, adopts the standard supposed to be supplied by the imaginary conduct of the discrete paterfamilias of Roman law. Surely you are familiar with the doctrine of the paterfamilias, the father who takes care of his children.
Yes, Your
Did
Honor.
you do that? You will answer, of course, in the affirmative because you already did just a few minutes ago. So I will not belabor that anymore. I will go on, in view of the remarks of the presiding officer, to the text of the civil code, which I mentioned earlier. I was talking about quasi-delicts. Now let me talk about human relations. Article 19, every person must, in the exercise of his rights and the performance of his duties, act with justice, give everyone his due, and observe honesty and good faith. That's what the civil code says. And you become liable for damages when you violate that provision. Your liability as LRA administrator will come from the penal code, particularly under Article 363. You are incriminating an innocent person. Any person who, by any act not constituting perjury, shall directly incriminate or impute to an innocent person the commission of a crime shall be punished by so and so. I believe as a judge that you are standing on the very brink of pushing the envelope. You're right there on the cliff. All I have to do is put out one finger and you'll fall right down. You've been trying to incriminate innocent persons. In fact, in the case of Companano versus Datuin, 207, as early as the Supreme Court said, the crime of incriminating innocent persons consists of, for example, planting evidence. Are you sure that you're not planting evidence with the issuance of that list? As for the liability of prosecutors, I ask you gentlemen to study your canons of judicial conduct. It is very clear from the jurisprudence on the basis of those canons that you are likewise in the same geographical position as your client. You are teetering on the brink of criminality. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Majority Floor Leader.
Loren? Mariana. May we recognize Senator Loren Legarda, Mr. President.
The gentle lady from Antique, Malabon, and the Republic of the Philippines, Senator Legarda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I simply wanted to follow up, Mr. President, my request, which I made yesterday, if Mr. Diaz would remember. I wanted a more accurate list of the properties of Chief Justice Renato Corona, and excluding the Del Castillo properties, which were not even owned by the son-in-law Del Castillo, but only a namesake of the brother-in-law. I believe that I requested, and the presiding officer asked the witness to present such in today's hearing. When I have the list, then I will propound my questions later.
Your Honor, when the request was made, I manifested that it will be a subject of stipulation by the parties today, and so I did not get a definite ruling whether or not such request will be premature, Your Honor, because the parties will have to discuss among themselves